Hey there! Do you want to see what messages the Oracle of the Fairies has for this weekly reading? Stay tuned! Hi, it's Leia. Welcome to this episode of Diaries of a Witchy Creative Life. It's time for another weekly reading, and as I said in the intro, we are using the Oracle of the Fairies deck. It's by Karen Kay with artwork by Ginger Kelly. If you're new here, hey there! To give you a little intro on how we do readings here, they aren't predictive. Instead, our focus is on shadow work, which helps us reconnect with those parts of ourselves that we've shunned or cast aside or are in denial of, for whatever reason, be that because there's fear associated with those parts of ourselves, or shame or embarrassment. We've used a lot of tarot decks for our weekly readings here. I figured today I wanted to use an oracle deck, not only to sort of switch the energy up from using tarot a lot, but also just to have a different energy and personality present when we do our shadow work. This deck in particular has a very playful and whimsical sort of feel to it. But it's the same process as with our regular weekly readings, where we look at each card individually, we're not following any particular spread, and we see, based off of each card's meaning, what inner work or shadow work we can do. Let's get started. Our first card is Manifestation. Be very honest and clear about what you wish to manifest in your life. Now write it down on paper. Manifestation, step 1. Whoopsies, let's put it forward so it's not covered by the other card. Here. There we go. So let's talk a little bit about manifestation here. This is a huge topic, so we're kind of going to gloss over it, and I'm just going to bring up a few points. Some people look at manifestation as a very woo-woo, magical thing. Thus, those who are closed off to it don't even want to give it a try. But I personally think that, first of all, why not allow the possibility of magic in your life, right? Okay. If it doesn't show up, then it doesn't show up. If it's not real, it's not real. But having at least an openness to wonderful things that could happen for you. Why not? That, to me, is very different from being ungrounded and putting all your eggs in that basket where you're not taking action in your life to make what you want to happen show up. And secondly, there is a lot of psychology backing why manifestation works. Yes, for sure, some have a more magical approach to it in the sense of casting spells, etc. But even that, in conjunction with taking action in your life, is basically simply putting your energy into what it is that you desire. That way, you're more aware of it. It's at the forefront of your thinking. And if you are focused on what you want to create, then you'll be more open to opportunities that come your way that will help this thing come into physical form. And writing what it is that we want to create does play a role in the manifestation of that thing. There are many studies that show that those who write down what it is that they want in their lives are more likely to get it, or to create it, or to pursue it, however which way they come across it or it comes to be. At least one reason is when you write something down and you regularly look at it or read it, you're reminded of it. It gets the energy or the desire going in you even more, whereas you might be more likely to forget about it if you just keep it in your mind. Besides, symbolically too, when you put it down on paper, that's already the first step to seeing what you want in physical form. And so, with this card, you're being invited now to allow yourself to think about what it is that you want for yourself at this time in your life. And in alignment with us doing shadow work, you could even take a look at how you might be blocking that, or how you might have been blocking it if this is something that you've wanted for a long time and you've had trouble creating it. This is not to say that we can have absolutely anything that we want. Sometimes something that we desire isn't actually aligned with who we truly are. Like, we might think we want the latest gadget or vehicle on the market, but it might be more because we've seen that somebody else has it and it's this shiny object that catches our attention. But deep down, we don't truly want it. So for some, that's very fleeting and it never comes to be. This is just one example that could apply to a whole lot of other things, by the way. But I thought I'd put it out there to illustrate my point. Now for others, it could be that you've been desiring a particular kind of relationship for a while now, but you keep getting with the same kind of people. The names and faces change, but the story is the same, which can be an indication of inner work that needs to be done so that you aren't wired to keep being attracted to the same characters over and over again. And before we move on to the next card, I want to bring up another point here, which is, I do think that some of the beliefs that spiritual people subscribe to can be harmful. We all have our own discretion and decision-making abilities to see if something works for us or not, or if we want to continue believing in it. But along the lines of manifestation, there are some people who would have you think that the reason certain things show up in your life, aka manifest, is because you attracted them. And I'm talking here about certain experiences that I think most of us wouldn't wish on anybody. I'll say it broadly since this is a very deep topic and we're not going to dive into it right here. We're only skimming the surface of it. But when it comes to different abusive behaviors, for instance, that some of us have experienced, there is this way of thinking that says, oh, you must have brought it upon yourself in some way, shape, or form because it matches your energy or something inside of you. And I personally don't believe that. I think that when it comes to manifesting our dreams and creating what we want in our life, taking care of our energy so that it is aligned with what we want to bring in. Now that makes sense. Because if you have career goals, for example, that you don't match currently in this very moment. For example, someone wants to be CEO of a company, but they haven't even done any sort of entry-level work. They have no knowledge of it, no familiarity with it. There basically isn't any foundation that would be necessary for them to get what they want. But bringing it back to quote-unquote manifesting abuse that some of us experience, I would say if you've heard that before and you've taken that on as a burden, thinking that it's your fault, that somebody hurt you because you weren't right in some way or you invited it in some way, don't punish yourself for that. Again, this is a really deep topic, and I do know of cases where abuse is mutual, let's say in some relationships, but that doesn't excuse the behavior regardless. And I wanted to talk about this because I don't think that beliefs like that should get in the way of those who still want to use manifestation in order to bring about the life of their dreams or experiences that they want. But they're sort of hesitant to look into it because they've heard of these beliefs about manifesting or manifestation that are victim shaming or pretty harmful. So yeah, that's something to think about right there. But again, that's a huge topic, so let's move on to card number 2. We have Shine from Within. Looks are only skin deep. True beauty shines from within, and it's time for you to shine. This is a time for self-acceptance and for revealing your true beauty. So we have an opportunity here to see how we might be comparing ourselves with others and not allowing ourselves to shine or to enjoy life because we feel like beside those that we compare ourselves to, maybe we aren't so special. In this day and age, it's pretty easy to get caught up in surface stuff, the physical, looks. Many of us being on social media contributes to that. And while I don't think that social media in and of itself is a negative, there are definitely pros and cons to it. When we see others going on trips that we wish we could go on, or even having meals at restaurants that we normally don't go to because, for whatever reason, we might personally consider them too pricey, or they're not easily accessible to you, like that particular restaurant isn't in your neighborhood. Due to these comparisons, we sometimes feel like we are failing at life because all these others are able to have those experiences. People that we went to school with are now jet setters. And based on what we see of them, their lives look great. And you might already know this, but here's a moment where we could be reminded that what people post and what people show are highlights. Even those whose lives are generally awesome and wonderful, they probably have some bad days as well, or their own insecurities. And there are things that you are good at. There are areas where you excel. When we feel low after comparing ourselves to others, it's easy to forget our own abilities. But that's why it is important for us to be our own cheerleader. So obviously, I'm talking about surface level stuff here in general, or what it is that we can see. I didn't just stick with looks, which is what the card referred to primarily, like outer beauty. I've included other things that we perceive here that we use as a basis of comparison. So my question for you is, have you forgotten what you're good at? Maybe now's a good time to remember. You might have pushed certain activities to the side because you're so discouraged. Maybe when you were younger, it was your goal to find fame doing what it is you do. And you see people you used to know who have achieved that. But just a reminder, your value doesn't lie in how recognized you are or how many people know you. Besides, too, a lot of what people put out there could quite possibly be embellished. When we make what is visible the basis of how well someone's doing, it's easy to fall into that trap of believing that everyone else is doing better than we are. In all likelihood, those people that a lot of others envy, at least some of them, I won't speak generally, they have these days where they don't even see the fame and the material objects they've accumulated that all these other people around them or who know them covet. All they can see is they still haven't found that relationship that they've been wanting for years now. Or others might have mental health issues that keep them from enjoying life more. So despite having all this wonderful stuff that others wish they had, some of these people aren't even really happy. And this isn't supposed to be a consolation, by the way. The point here is we all go through this sort of thing, even those whose lives seem to be perfect. And so for those of us who are capable of pulling ourselves out of the funk created by such harsh comparisons, this could be a reminder here to look at what it is that we do have. Look at the good that is available to us and enjoy that, work with that, make the most of that. Not to say as well that if you desire more out of life, that you simply stop where you are and don't invite more good or abundance in. But it is possible not to punish ourselves for not yet achieving what it is that we want to achieve and have as good of a time wherever it is that we are at the moment, while continuing to have hopes and dreams of what it is that we want to further create for ourselves. It's all a balancing act, and maybe talking about it now for some of you out there is a helpful reminder to get more into balance when it comes to all of these. Maybe, to give an example, to pull back on comparing yourself to others, if you've been doing a lot of that, and to focus more on yourself. And yes, it takes work, but such is life, right? And our third card for this weekly reading is Hidden Depths. Something hidden is about to come to light, perhaps a secret or memory at the back of your mind. When we expose what's hidden, we can become free. Okay, so I know that the inspiring message on the card had a predictive tone to it, and since the readings that we do here aren't predictive, the meaning that we take from this involves shadow work. Again, we do shadow work in general anyway, but this in particular straight up talks about revealing what has been hidden. And so let's address how we might typically react to what's hidden coming to light. And by the way, the weekly reading videos here, even though they're dated, the date is more for me to be able to say, this is the general shadow work reading that I have for you for this week. But again, since it isn't predictive, you can work with the questions, the prompts, the points for reflection, anytime really. They're timeless. So if there are any weekly reading videos that you missed, it's okay to watch them, even if they're like a week ago or a month ago or whenever. And that brings us back to what typically happens to you when you do shadow work. And I ask because some might need extra self-care. Like, sure, you love doing shadow work because it helps you get your life in better order than it was before. And that's just one example. It results in different things for different people. But it's also possible that despite the benefits you get from it, there are side effects, such as when you first admit to yourself, for instance, that there have been times in your life where you've treated people in ways that you're not proud of or that you wouldn't do at this time in your life. That might put you in a dark place for a little bit because you are swimming in that energy of shame as you process it. So how do you respond to the revelations that come up when you do shadow work? And what can you do for yourself to help you through that time? Again, the answers would be different for different people, but let's give some examples. Maybe someone who, after doing some shadow work on their childhood, realizes that they were mistreated severely and they didn't see that at the time. They took it as normal. And now they see that it was very dysfunctional, and certain people that they trusted really, really hurt them. If what you're feeling after you realize that is you need some time to process, maybe you should give that to yourself. Some people might need to take a personal day and just be by themselves during that time. For others, it might even be like a whole week where, unless they absolutely had to, they limit contact with others as they do the processing work. While I obviously champion shadow work, some people who do it might be triggered and revert to harmful habits while they're in that triggered state. Some who are sober, for instance, might wish that they weren't sober during a time when they discover something or admit something to themselves. And if this is you, you might have to take the necessary steps so that you don't fall down a rabbit hole that you'll regret going down after some time passes. While some people can handle doing shadow work on their own, I think that definitely others benefit more with a skilled coach or therapist or advisor of some kind being there for them through the process, because they don't know how to handle what comes up. See what's true for you and what applies to you so that you can take care of yourself and not just get sucked into the darkness. Thank you so much for joining me for this video. While I always enjoy doing the weekly readings, it was a little extra fun using an oracle deck this time around, just to change the energy up. If you enjoy this and you haven't yet, I invite you to subscribe to this channel and get notifications as well so you don't miss a thing. I'll be back with so many more videos on tarot and oracle cards as relates to healing, shadow work, self-awareness, and the like. So stay tuned. In the meantime, I send you love. Take care of yourself. I'll see you soon. Bye for now. More Diaries of a Witchy Creative Life are coming your way.